If you have a mysterious leak running down your oil pan right behind your AC compressor, you likely have a failed water pump that is leaking out the weep hole in the engine block. Now what happens is the internal seals fail on the water pump. Now when those seals start leaking, this starts leaking on the outside through this weep hole here and through the weep hole in the engine block. Now what that does is stops the leaking coolant from mixing with your engine oil, which you certainly don't want. Now replacing the water pump might seem a little scary because this is timing chain driven, but it's not as bad as you may think it is. What I would also recommend though, if you do this job, is to replace your timing chain tensioner because you're going to be taking the old one out. A lot of people reuse them. I choose not to. I prefer to have a new one in there. And I bought one from Cloy's on Rock Auto. I also bought the water pump from Rock Auto as well. And I'll have links to those both in the description below. Now the overview of what you're going to be doing here is you're going to set the timing to top dead center. There are access covers on the timing cover for your timing chain tensioner and your water pump. You're going to be removing both of those covers, removing the timing chain tensioner, turning the crankshaft 20 degrees counterclockwise to achieve slack over at the water pump so you can get the chain off of it and pull this out. I'm going to show you step by step how to do this so you can do it yourself and achieve the satisfaction of knowing you fixed your own car. Let's get started. As you can see here, I have the front right wheel off, and I also have the fender liner removed so that I can access the crankshaft pulley right here. It's also where we're going to be lining up to get to top dead center, but we're not quite there yet. I'm going to be moving and removing a few things, like the coolant tank, the relay box, and quite possibly the power steering reservoir. All right, the first step we need to do is drain the coolant out of the radiator. So we're going to jack up the front end. This will allow me to get a bucket underneath. Make sure when you drain the coolant, you take the radiator cap off so it can vent. Next thing I'm going to do is use a 10 mil to undo the coolant reservoir. I'm just going to move this. Next I'm going to use a 12 mil to get the bracket for the relay box out of the way. Next thing we need to do is let the tension off of our drive belt. And you can see I have a 14 mil wrench on the adjuster pulley. And what we're going to do is just loosen that pulley up because that's a locking bolt for the adjuster. So we're just going to loosen that up so it'll slide up and down on the bracket. Now we're going to hit the adjuster bolt here with a 14 mil in a counterclockwise direction. And our pulley is now fully loose. So sorry I had some technical difficulties with the camera and you didn't see me pull the belt off, but there's plenty of slack there, so I pulled the belt off of the pulleys and it is now out. Next you're going to take a 12 mil socket and we're going to start to remove the belt adjuster. The first bolt is right under the top of the bracket here. Okay, the other two bolts are here underneath the pulley, as you can see, right here and right beside it. And now we can remove our belt tensioner out the bottom. Next, there's a 12 millimeter drain bolt for the coolant passage in the engine. If we want to drain, so we need to take that out. It will make a mess. This bolt has thread sealant on it. You want to make sure you put some thread sealant back on when you stick it in. All right, we need to prepare to remove the engine mounting bracket. That means we need a small section of 2x4, put on our floor jack, and we need to put it under our oil pan. Make sure you use a 2x4 to do this or you're going to be buying an oil pan or possibly damaging even more. Now you just need to support the engine. You don't need to lift it up. Just like so. Now we need to prepare to remove our engine mount from here to give us plenty of room for these covers. We need to remove this nut right here, this bolt. And then, even trickier, on the underside, the nut is going the other direction. These are 14 millimeter. Can now remove our engine mount out of here. Get it out of our way. Now we need to take our two bolts out that hold the mount to the engine block. Probably going to need a breaker bar for that, just to break them loose. Then we can take them off the rest of the way with a ratchet. There is one down at the bottom that you're going to have to get as well. I think the best way to get it would be from underneath, so that's where we're going to go to get this one. After much persuasion, I got that nut off the bottom. Basically what I had to do was use a 3/8 drive ratchet, 17 millimeter shallow socket, and I had to use a cheater pipe up here to loosen it up. Then I could use the ratchet the rest of the way. Now I should be able to take this mount off. Fun stuff. Good job, Nissan engineers. I love engineers. They're my favorite.
I love carpet.
Now that we've cleared a little bit of room here, I'm going to show you, this is the water pump cover right here. This is your timing tensioner cover right here. Our next step, we're going to put the crank pulley at top dead center. So we need to rotate it and see our marks. I don't know if you can see here, down on the water pump cover, there's an arrow pointing down. And that will line up with your marks on the crankshaft pulley. There's going to be 3 actual marks. There's going to be a first mark, which is top dead center, which is a single line itself, and then 2 double lines, which is going to be 20 degrees before top dead center. So we need to rotate our crankshaft pulley. I believe it's a 19 millimeter. Rotate it until we get those timing marks we need up here. So as you can see, we found our timing marks. Right now I'm sitting on top dead center, which is the single line at the arrow. Now we can take our covers off for the water pump and the timing tensioner. These cover bolts are all 10 millimeter. Going to use a screwdriver and a little bit of tap from a hammer just to get this cover off. There's our water pump. We can see that now. Now we can move over here to the timing tensioner cover and do the same thing. Once you got it split open enough, just open it up by hand after that. There you go, just like that. All right, now we need to take out the 2 10 millimeter bolts holding the tensioner in. Take the bottom out first, let the tensioner swing down, and then take the top out. Don't drop the bolts down in your timing cover, or you're going to be ripping this cover off the engine to get it out. First bolt out. Now we can swing down the tensioner. After we loosen the top bolt up, it should swing down on its own. I just heard it slip. And if you can see that, the tensioner is now pointed straight down. So now I'm going to take the top bolt out. Again, being very careful not to drop the bolt down in the timing cover. Top bolt is out. Now we need to fish the tensioner out of the timing cover. There it is. If you were reusing this, you would flip this lever down and push the piston back inside, and then you would lock it. There's procedures on how to do that. I am not reusing mine. I do not believe in reusing tensioners, so I'm not reusing this. Now there should be slack on your timing chain on this side, which there is. I'm going to rotate this engine now 20 degrees before top dead center so that I can get this slack over to the water pump. Now again, what I'm doing is just putting a little bit of tension manually with my fingers on that timing chain, and then I'm rotating the crankshaft back to the double marks, which would be 20 degrees before top dead center. Now I want to show you what that does. If you can see, I now have slack in the timing chain over at the water pump. So now what I can do is undo the bolts for the water pump and start taking it out. They are 10 millimeter bolts, and there are 3 of them. Here I am loosening these 3 bolts up. Again, you have to be careful with these not to drop them in your timing cover. That would be bad, and that's going to create a lot more work for you that you weren't expecting. Now to get your old water pump out of the block, you will notice 2 of the 3 holes on the water pump here have threads in them, and they fit an M8 by 1.25 pitch bolt. I happen to have 2 of these, and what you do is you thread these into the old water pump until they hit the block, and then you tighten each one like half a turn until it will walk this water pump out. And that's how you get these out, because they will be stuck in there pretty good. I think we have our water pump loose. Now I'm just using a finger to try to ride timing chain off of the water pump. There's not a lot of space, as you can see here, to get your water pump out. So we're going to have to finagle this thing pretty good to get out of there and persuade it. Now what you also want to do is you want to clean in here your rag and clean around in there as best as you can. On your new water pump, on your black O-ring here, you are going to lubricate this with engine coolant before you put this in. The orange ring, you're going to lubricate with engine oil before you put this in. This will help it slip into a spot where it belongs without damaging the O-rings. Make sure you lubricate these, because if you damage these O-rings, this job was for nothing. Okay, now we're going to finagle the water pump in, and this is going to be tricky. Getting the chain around this is going to be the bigger part. If you want to know what it's like owning a Murano, this is a good image right here. So since I'm not able to easily show you on the car how this water pump goes in and the best way to get it in there, I'm going to show you outside the car with the old water pump. So what I do is I start setting the water pump in. I use the pick to kind of push the timing chain back, hold it back, and then I finagled this thing in. I'm also going to show you right now, when you put these bolts in, you alternate them just a couple turns at a time. Use 1/4 inch drive. I wanted to pause the video a minute and explain why I said about using 1/4-inch drive. Do you see this? This and this are 2 broken water pump bolts. I made a mistake and used 3/8 drive to tighten my water pump bolts up, and this is what I ended up with. I was able to get these out. If you look at the end of this, you can see the weld spall on the end there. I carefully stuck my welder inside there and just kept hitting a tack on top of this piece because they were broke off flush. And then I was able to just grab a hold by hand after it cooled down, of course, and twist these out. If I would have done the proper procedure, like the book says to, and tightened these up incrementally, and also applied the proper torque, I wouldn't have broke these off to begin with, and my job would have taken a lot less time. So don't do what I did. Okay, back to the video. Now the final torque spec for this is 85 inch-pounds on all 3 bolts. But again, tighten each one incrementally just to get this pulled in. Okay? Here's a little trick to make sure you don't lose a bolt into a catastrophic void. Alright, and what you want to do is you want to tighten these just incrementally till you get the water pump seated, and then you can start worrying about the torque. Starting to feel a little snug. Okay, the torque you're looking here for is 85 inch-pounds. 85. Water pump is in. Now we need to turn the crankshaft clockwise to bring slack back over to the tensioner side. Okay, we have all our slack back over on the timing chain tensioner side now. And our timing chain appears to be fully seated on the water pump. This car truly is going to be the death of me. Nissan, you are not the Red Cross. You do not need my blood that bad. Okay, now there's going to be some tricky finger work I need to do here to get this tensioner into that hole back there. Through a stroke of luck, I managed to get that tensioner in there. Come in with our other bolt and get that started. I'm just going to snug them up and then we'll torque them properly. Okay, the torque spec for the timing chain tensioner is 72 inch-pounds. Torqued. Now with the timing chain tensioner installed, we can pull the pin. And there it is. You can see here that I have quite the contraption that I'm rotating the crankshaft with, just running this chain through its paces just to make sure it's good. Before we install our covers, they're going to go for a dip in the pool. Clean the RTV up on these a little bit. FYI, the 3M white discs don't really chew into your metal much, but they do remove the sealant that's on it. At this point, installation is reverse of the removal. I will give you some torque specs, however. The 2 covers, both the water pump cover and the timing tensioner cover, the bolts on those are 112 inch-pounds. The bolts to mount the tensioner on are 18 to 23 foot-pounds. The torque for the 2 bolts and the lower nut for the lower part of the engine mount are 62 foot-pounds. And that's going to do it for how you replace the water pump in a Nissan Murano. If you found this video helpful and you want to see more Murano content, do me a favor and hit that like button down below, subscribe to my channel, sign up for notifications. So have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.